What's going on, everybody? Today, we have another episode of Opinionated Off-Topic. I'm with Carlos Mojica, co-founder, co-owner of Opinionated Media. Today, I'm with Cade and Noah, owners of Havin A Cold One. Super excited to talk to you guys, both former athletes. You and Carlos were talking, about baseball off camera and just kind of catching up. But grateful to have y'all on our show today. I'm excited to talk about, y'all's business, what y'all do, and also learn more about y'all and just kind of get an insight on that business route and kind of what y'all have done to grow your business, especially for us, because we were trying to get more in that, business mindset, how to grow and scale and whatnot. So I'm super interested. And then obviously we talked on the phone yesterday and talked about cold plunges and how it's like a fad and stuff now. So it seems to be something y'all are doing and killing and crushing. So excited to hear about y'all's story.
I appreciate you having us on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Super excited to be here, be on the podcast. Means a lot, man. So
appreciate y'all taking time out the day because I did not know that y'all drove that far. I don't know if you're in the area already, but appreciate you. If you go back home tonight,
shout out to that.
Yeah, we spend plenty of time on I-35. We do a ton of events in Austin, dude. So we're getting used to that road.
Yeah. Just give us a little backstory. I don't know who wants to go first. Give a little rundown where you came from and how you got to what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I'm Cade Bollinger. I'm from Boerne, Texas. It's right outside San Antonio. College baseball player, played at Texas State, basically been an athlete my whole life, done nothing else. Now just kind of figuring out my own way through life, starting a business with my good friend Noah here, and we're just rocking and rolling with that, and through the trials and tribulations, just making what we can of what we can. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. I'm Noah Walker, same thing, played baseball my whole life. I'm here from Austin, Texas, born and raised, played at Texas State University. That's where I met Cade. And really, it was one of the battles of why we kind of started the business was we got out of college, and I was like, okay, I'm no longer an athlete. And so that's really been my identity my whole life. I've been playing baseball for 20 years. And so what else really is there for me? And so it's just been kind of a battle every day, trying to redefine yourself, find different ways to reinvent yourself, and just kind of make it in this world. But it's been fun, dude. I mean, a lot of the athletic stuff, y'all know, it ties directly into business, ties directly into life. We were talking about this yesterday, where you already have that mindset of knowing what it takes to get things done. You know what it takes. You're like, shit, I got to wake up at 6 a.m., go do this, go do that. It's you're used to that, right? It's and so having somebody along with me who also gets it is super valuable. Yeah. Just because I think it's so much better. What do they say? You can go fast alone, go far together, right? And it's just so true. Whereas if you're all going through the shit together, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I guess doesn't get talked about. Well, you mentioned it earlier, but two things that don't get talked about a lot is how much sports teaches you, just personal growth and how to compete once you get out of whatever sport you're competing in. And then second, just it kind of sucks because your whole life you do identify as an athlete. So just once it's done, it's done. It's all right, what the hell do I do now?
The identity thing is a big, big thing. And you can get lost in it pretty easily. Yep. Just you can keep the identity of being a competitive person, right? But transitioning from baseball player to business owner is a big part, and that can be a roadblock in itself for a lot of people. So we've gotten really good at just what do you do? It's we do Havin A Cold One. That's who we are. That's what we do. That's our life now. It's not especially when you're trying to get to the next level you go from college to professional, it's big I'm a baseball player. I've always been a baseball player. This is what I'm gonna do for my whole life. And you have to buy in order to get there. We really noticed that in order to succeed in business, you have to buy in with yourself. And that's the biggest thing is changing that identity, and not even changing it because it's a part of us to who we are to this day, to our core, but basically using it just in a different way and kind of altering what it means for what we do, right? So the competition is a big thing. We can dive into that in a little bit.
No doubt. Yeah, because we were talking about it too. I mean, there's a ton of cold plunge companies out there. It's how do you separate? I mean, same thing what I was telling you with us. There's a ton of podcasts out there. How do you separate yourself? And obviously having that competitive spirit, you see someone winning, good for them. It's good for the market, but at the same time, you're let me go after that and chase it.
Yeah. So that's been a big thing too. Is not having that scarcity mindset, right? Because in the beginning, we would send them back and forth, be here's another one just started, or it's just and just trying to bite off what they're doing, see what they're doing, see what we're doing differently. But really, it's understanding. It's look, there's always going to be another business. There's always going to be another podcast. It's just staying in your lane, and it's understanding that really the only thing that separates you is consistency, and then just staying in your lane as far as like what you're trying to accomplish. So for us, like community is huge, right? Like we try to build the best community and just have the most fun out of anybody. And so it's like there really is no competition if you create your own lane. It's like that was it red ocean, blue ocean?
Yeah.
Where it's like if you just so red ocean is essentially like an oversaturated market because there's just so many people fighting. It's like a bunch of sharks in the water all fighting. There's a bunch of blood in the water. And so it's like instead of trying to carve out your little piece of this red ocean, find a blue ocean. Find a different part of that niche where, yes, you can still do cold plunges, you can still do a podcast, but it's like getting very specific about who you're trying to talk to so that there's no competition in that lane.
Yeah.
Just kind of creating your own space.
Where did you even learn about cold plunging? Because me, I barely really since, how long you been, when did you go start on the collective? Last year?
Yeah, it's been almost a year.
Really since like last year, that's when I learned about cold plunging, because it's like you go to the 24, you go to Goals, like, they're big gyms, but they're gyms that don't have stuff like that. So you don't really see it. Is that something like y'all learned in college, or was it like after college?
So yeah, I'll talk to you about on college a little bit, and then he's a little better with the post-college stuff. But through college, I mean, it was always something we were forced to do. Like especially once we got to Texas State, they had a big old. It looked like a jacuzzi, but they would be like 6 of us get in, and we'd have to hype each other up because that thing would be like 50 degrees, and you just were outside for 4 or 5 hours practicing. So you're you have to shower beforehand, but you're still hot, right? And you're still super hot. So getting in that is like really 2 extremes. You're coming from a 95-degree turf field, and you're jumping into 50-degree water. And it'd be funny, there'd be like 8 minutes, whatever. Trainer would be there with, on the watch, and it'd be funny just watching some kids like freak out, and other people just like get in and like encouraging others, and then you obviously have your friendly camaraderie of like, oh okay, like you can't say it on here, but like the name calling, whatnot goes on in a friendly manner. But when we got out of college, we were super stoked. Never thought we'd have to do that again. And here we are. So our first, I think, exposure out of college was Huberman, probably.
Yeah, probably Huberman.
Yeah.
We're big Andrew Huberman fans. He's been on Joe Rogan. He just talks about a bunch of the science behind it. And like Cade was saying, but like once I got out of college, I was like, bro, I'm never doing another cold plunge again. Like I'm not an athlete anymore. I don't need to do that. I don't have I don't need to do this extreme kind of recovery. I don't need to put myself through that anymore. Like I love myself more now. I don't have to do that. But like we were talking earlier, I train jiu-jitsu. We're still very active. We work out all the time. We're getting older. And so it's like realizing that, okay, I need to do something just to combat, because I see these people that are just 5 years ahead of me. They're like, man, I can't even bend over. My back hurts. My knees hurt. And they're doing the same things I am. So I'm like, there's got to be, a better way to be active in recovery about it. And so kind of diving into the whole rabbit hole behind the science of like Andrew Huberman, just kind of getting really the actual science behind it, because I've always just thought it was like an inflammation thing, just like, all right, it'll just reduce your muscle inflammation, like I've always iced my arm whenever I pitch. But just really getting into kind of like the mental and the psychological aspects of it was really where it kind of hit for me, because I was like, if that's something you can use as like a differentiator for yourself, kind of give yourself an edge and just feel that you're doing something that's really pushing you where you want to go. It's been the biggest thing for me. It's just using it as like that psychological edge. So we really started by doing like ice in our bathtub, so we would just buy a bunch of ice, throw it in our bathtub. But we were both relatively big dudes, and it'd only be like up to our legs. So it would just not really work.
Just get the lower half.
So it was cool, but then everything that they're saying on Andrew Huberman, all these different podcasts, like, look, you need to get like as much as your body submerged as you can.
What's you have a nerve that runs up the vagus nerve that runs up the back of your neck, and that's the biggest thing that they talk about, like needing to be submerged. In order to get like the mental benefits, such as like the dopamine spike and things like that. Obviously you'll still get some sort of, you're submerging your body in like a place it's not supposed to be. Right. And so when you're doing that, your body is automatically in fight or flight, and your brain's going to react a specific way. But for all the true benefits, it's really like ideal to get down to like, it's like the base of your neck or something. It's in that area. Submerge that, and that really opens up your like the hormones and stuff in your brain to the benefits of cold exposure. So.
How is it something you can just go straight into, or do you have to like warm your body up to it, like doing, I guess, other things that are like slightly colder? I mean, slightly less colder.
For sure.
Can you just go jump straight into it, or is there some people like their body will go into shock? And
It's a great question. I mean, we get that question all the time. And really, I'm just a proponent of getting cold in general. So like whenever people are like, well, can I just take a cold shower? Yes. can I just like stick my face in a bowl of cold water? Yeah, you can absolutely do that. It's like, but it's really just finding a way that you can like introduce it into your life. I'm big about sustainability and something that you can see yourself doing on a consistent basis. Because like what you're saying, a lot of times people will be like, all right, well, if I'm not doing 40 degrees, like it's not worth it. You know, if it's not super cold,
it's not 40,
it's the ego, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's your ego flaring up, and you're like, I know I got to be tough so I can tell people that I just did 40 degrees. But really, it's just finding something that's manageable for you. So whether that's just getting a cold shower, whether it's hopping in a cold plunge, there's a good friend of ours, his name is David Ship. He has a foundation called Holistic Heroes. He's a veteran, and their whole purpose is about getting veterans off of prescription medication using cold plunges, breath work, and just various kind of holistic approaches. And something that he's a big proponent of is called titration. So it's just basically the definition of titration, like the scientific definition, just slowly introducing something into a system to where it becomes acclimated. And so you can do that with your own body. And so like it's a little system where you put your hands in the water, you take them out for 30 seconds. You put your legs up to the knees in the water, and you stand out for 30 seconds. And then you go arms, legs, arms, and just kind of slowly introduce yourself to it. Because like you're saying, like if people get in there and it's just so shocking that they can't even stay in for 10 seconds, they're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
They were just embarrassed. It hurt. It was painful. It sucked. They're like, I'm probably never going to do that again, right? Yeah. So it's just finding a way that you can introduce it to yourself that's just manageable and comfortable for you.
It's like basically like a fish when you introduce it to a new fish tank. Same way.
Exactly.
Or if you're going to work out, right? If you're starting to run, or you're planning to, hey, I want to train for a marathon this year, you're not going to go out and run 26 miles on the first day, right?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to run for the rest of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing though is like taking your breath away. So if you can get your hands in and your feet in and stuff, we've actually had some with David Ship. We've had some very good stories of like, you know, girls and men who really didn't want to do it, and like through titration they got in there, like they were originally going to do a minute, and then they made it to 3, and they were like, oh, I'm going to do 5. And then they get out, and it's super, like it's actually inspiring to see sometimes, because you're just like, wow, like that person really just accomplished something that they truly believed they couldn't do. And so it's cool.
What's the difference between cold plunging and like, what's it called? Cryo?
Cryotherapy.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm just a proponent of getting cold. I mean, I've done cryo, I think, once in my life, and it's less shocking, right? So, I mean, that's the number one thing that people always tell me. They're like, oh, I do cryo all the time. I'm like, cool. Like, you want to try cold plunge? And then they do it, and they're like, that was so much harder. Like, that was awful, just because you're fully submerged in it, and it's in every crevice of your body. It's fully surrounded you. Versus the cryo, I think it's just more surface area. And I'm not saying that cryo doesn't work, because obviously there's benefits really just to getting cold at all. But I think it's a whole lot simpler just getting in cold water. I mean, people have been doing it for thousands of years.
I would say it's a lot easier to stand outside when it's 50 degrees than to get in 50-degree water, just because basically, like, not to get scientific, but how it works is water is denser, heavier than air, so it has more, like distributes energy a lot better. That's why like sound underwater is a lot more intense than sound above water. If you ever hear someone like hit something metal underwater, it's like piercing. Whereas above, you know, if you're this far away, you know, it's not as like intense on the eardrums. It just everything's so much closer, so much more condensed, and it's just way more direct. It's shocking.
Yeah, so I guess going from there and doing all the cold plunging, and obviously you guys were talking about filling up your tubs and stuff, because when I was playing in college, we would do like the little kiddie pools and like get a bunch of ice, and we'd put like 5, 6, like you were saying, like multiple guys in there at once. So like I'm pretty sure that takes away from like the temperature of the actual water and like the consistency and stuff like that. So I guess whenever y'all started formulating this idea, what was like, all right, let's make this a real business, and then like kind of what was your direction on like getting funding and like capital and investing and all that stuff?
So I mean, like you said, we kind of started with just filling our bathtub with ice, and then we immediately realized that that's not sustainable, because you're gonna be buying ice every day. It's a pain in the ass. And so we looked into doing like a DIY freezer setup, you know, where you can build them in your garage, where you just basically get a stock tank freezer from Lowe's, and you hook up a temperature gauge to it, and it works. It gets the job done. But the water is just stagnant. It's staying in there. It's not circulating. And I was like, dude, I might just electrocute myself and die in my garage. I was like,
little toaster in the bathtub action.
I was like, I don't want to just end up like electrocuting myself in the garage. And Cade's going to walk out there one morning and be like, oh shit, dude, I guess he cold plunged. I guess he cold plunged this morning. And so we were like, there's got to be a better way. And so we were aware of other brands out there. But the biggest thing for us is that we're former athletes, so we wanted something that we could take with us on the road to give us a competitive edge. Just because, like, even at Texas State, we didn't have anything that we could take with us on the road. And so for some people, that's part of their routine. If they're pitching Friday night, we get there on Thursday, they're like, I want a cold plunge the night before, so I'm ready to go Friday. A lot of the times you're relying on the other team and relying on them having the facilities, being able to use their facilities. And so, like, portability was a big thing for us, just to be able to bring that on the road. And we wanted something that was just convenient and portable, could be taken everywhere, don't need ice. And so really convenience was one of the biggest things for us.
Or you're going to the hotel ice machine and carrying 50 buckets of that. The tiny little hotel buckets that's made for like a couple water bottles. But as far as like, starting up, we really bootstrapped the whole thing. We have no outside investors. We're 50-50 on it. Everything's in-house too. So like, all our communication is done via us too. Every single email gets responded to by us. Every single Instagram DM, everything. So people are like, oh, who do I reach out to? Because you just reach out to the account. You're reaching out to us directly, right? We keep everything personal so that we do have that personal touch to everything. And then like going into how we like spread the word a little bit, like that's why we do so many community events is because it's like we want to be a part of the community, right? We don't want to just be a brand that like just pushes really heavily on Instagram or whatever the case may be. Like we do that, but the idea is just to be like a household name from people who may not necessarily even buy one, but just enjoy the practice. And we've really found great success here in Austin, especially with, our biggest group, biggest group. They are awesome. But our biggest group is Sphere Club. We do a bunch of events with them. Shout out to Sphere Club. If you're in the Austin area and you like are lacking a community and you want a community, definitely give them a try. They're fantastic and they're welcoming to anyone and everyone. So they're great. But yeah, I mean everything's basically done in-house, funding, everything like that. And so it's exciting, but it kind of keeps the pressure on knowing that it's just like, oh, okay, we don't have money in the bank to be like. Not necessarily wasting, but we're not over the top with everything. So every email you get is us. You communicate directly with us. We're not hiring out VAs in another country or anything like that.
I'm pretty it's more creative. We got to outmaneuver people because it's just us.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm pretty sure even like with your guys' success, going to these events, you guys had Danny there from Survivor, like kind of leading an event, like a breathworking event, and I'm pretty sure there's people that have seen y'all's product and they probably a pitch like, how can I help you out? How can I invest and stuff like that? So it sounds like you guys are still keeping everything in-house. What has kind of been a determining factor from not having someone like kind of come in and help you, give you more capital? Kind of what's y'all's thoughts?
I don't listen to others well. That's my biggest thing is like, I don't want some, like it's like the good, like the angel and the devil. I don't want someone saying, no, you have to be doing this. Like I own this part, this much. This much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I'm going to do it. Like I'm going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I'll make them once.
Yeah.
But I'm going to learn from them. And like, we do have people who are invested in us, but not monetarily.
Got you.
So we have, we have mentors, we have friends, we have family. Like we both know people who are very successful in their own aspects in life, and it's definitely shaved some time off of like the learning curves, right? Like we've definitely made mistakes and learned from them, but we definitely have those resources that, it's kind of more than money at a point, right? Like the insight that they can give into doing something is just been, monumentally helpful. So, for sure. I'm sure he can speak to why he doesn't necessarily care for.
It's the same thing. It's kind of the ego a little bit where like we like the control of it, right? We have a very specific direction that we want to go with, and we don't want to just have some outside people that are saying, hey, well, I gave you X amount of money, so we need to do this because it looks good to the investors, right? So like we're really big on trying to build something organic in a way that people want to be a part of it. And I think that we have a very strong opinion on that and just like a very strong direction that we want to go in. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what does this money give me, right? Is that just for purchase orders? Is that just for advertising? Is that something that we truly need at this point? Like we're still a relatively young company, right? It hasn't even been a full year. Wow. So it's like we really need to be focusing on just getting the business activities in place. So by the time we do have the money, it just rockets us. Because right now, I feel like money would help. Money always helps. Obviously, it can make you go faster. But it may not give you exactly where you want to go if you don't build it in the right way. Because then it kind of dilutes the brand into something else that is kind of what we see a lot in the marketplace right now, which is just people just throwing ads at you and saying, hey, this will change your life. And really we're trying to make it so that it's outside of the stigma that you have to be a certain type of person. You have to be an athlete in order to do it. Like I thought you had to be an athlete in order to cold plunge. I was like, once I got out, I was like, I'm never doing that again. And so it's just trying to build it in the right way to make it for everybody, right? Make it for every man, every woman, whoever wants to do it. I mean, we have kids do them at our events sometimes where their parents will be like, hey, can they do it? I'm like, absolutely. I was like, I was like, if they want to try it, why would I ever stop them?
Yeah. That's how kind of we are. I mean, everything's in-house with us, literally everything. It's us two, and that's it. All the videos we edit, all the DMs and Instagrams, like everything is us.
Yeah, coordination, all that.
So
it's a lot.
it's
We see y'all.
It is a lot, and the only advice that to doing that, it would be like find someone who's done it before you. You know, and we don't have anyone who's done what we've done, but we have people who've built businesses, grown businesses, and are extremely successful in their own path in life. Who, like I said, they just steer us in the right direction. You know, they don't tell us what to do. They just say, maybe you should try this.
Yeah.
We try it, and most of the time,
they just give you a game.
Yeah, most of the time they tell you that because it's what to do.
It's what to
They
do.
can say
Yeah.
every year or two.
Yeah. That's what people who are starting to get to the consecration. That's kind of what we do as well. We just all the stuff that we went through. We're just gonna make it faster for you, so you don't have to go through it.
Right. Exactly.
Especially if you working with us.
For sure.
And then going back to just other people, I guess, buying into the company is so hard because they do control whatever they want to control because they are giving you X amount of money. And it's very rare where you find someone that's like, I'm gonna invest in you, and they just let you do what you do.
Because they invest in the vision, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. We're trying to just keep the vision clear so people understand where we're coming from and what we're about, and so it just doesn't get diluted.
Yeah, and I feel like one of our friends that we know, he owns a clothing company. He started a clothing company called Dreamer. That's how it was for him. He just people were investing in his vision rather than, hey, do this because I gave you the money.
Austin,
Yeah,
Suter.
Yeah, that's
Super,
boy.
yeah.
That's my homie.
He's dope as fuck.
Yeah.
I've met him once.
Yeah.
He's cool as fuck. Yeah, we went to a few of the dinners with Matt.
Yeah.
And he was over there. He's giving us some game.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cool dude.
Yeah.
He's
super
throwing
good.
some ideas our way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Working on it.
Yeah.
I'm curious with y'all because we had a similar kind of experience where, in the beginning, I had to get over the fact where I was like, you're putting yourself out there, right? I mean, you're putting yourself out there for the world to see and in a way where it's like, hey, I'm starting this business. This is something I care about. And for some people, it's not always that cool to try. Or like people say, like, try hard. Like, that's a bad thing, right? It's like, when has it ever been bad to try hard at something, right? Like, I've never understood that, why try hard is an insult or anything like that. But I had to get over that myself in the beginning, being like, kind of separating my personal life from the business. Yeah. And then eventually get to the point where I was like, what am I hiding from? Like, why am I trying to keep it to myself? Or why am I, like, whose judgment am I afraid of? Like, I know my true friends actually support me. And anybody who unfollows me because I post something about a business I started, like, they probably weren't really a good friend in the beginning.
And that goes with the identity thing a little bit, right? Like, you got to buy in. Like, this is who I am. And, like, if you're not willing to post it so that, like, you can expose some, like, and not expose in a bad way, but, like, expose people who don't support you necessarily, who think it's, like, a little ridiculous.
That's kind of, we never really had that problem. For us, it was just more like, fuck it. I mean, whoever follows and shows us love, shows us love. If they don't, especially if it's like, because there was some close friends of ours in the beginning, I would say, that didn't follow. And now since we have gotten more traction, they are following now. But I don't know. We just always just been like, fuck it. Like, we're still going to do whatever we're going to do.
Well, and that's what it comes down to is, like, are you going to do it whether that one person, because there's always going to be that one person. It's a lot easier to hate than it is to support.
Bro, and that shit fires me up. Like,
Should.
because we started when we were like 22, so it's like, I feel like it is a little easier when you're older because you're just like more mature. You're just like, I don't give a fuck, whatever. But like when you're younger, it's like everyone's just doing so much different stuff. Yeah. But we also look at it as like, they're not going to understand because they're not supposed to understand because they're not like you were saying about the dinners, like people that are there are like doing the same stuff as you. So like whatever you talk about, they understand, like giving feedback, advice, whatever. Like he said, it's one of those things where they're not following it. So for me, I was just like, well, we're going to make them like believe, like we're going to get fire ass guests on. We're going to do fire shows, have fire content. Sure. He talks about it all the time. When we first like started the brand, people were like, oh, I didn't know y'all had a logo. I didn't expect y'all to have cameras and it to be like super professional. We were like, you thought we were just going to bullshit it. We're going to like, take it serious because if we don't take ourselves serious, y'all will never take us serious. Exactly, so yeah, I just think it's cool to like meet people like y'all and, people are just, y'all are just doing what y'all want to do and y'all are just loving it. And then at the end of the day, you're going to get that praise when you make it to where you want to be. And then people are like, oh, like, yeah, like, you know, clapping and stuff and cheering. But it's like, you know, like they weren't there.
Where you been?
You know?
And it's also just kind of have the mindset too, just because you don't like it, for me, it doesn't mean anything. Someone's going to think that shit's dope.
Exactly. If you think it's dope, somebody else will.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, there's so many different things in this world that people like that other people don't like. Like, I mean, it's a bit like with music. I mean, music's such like one of the biggest things with this. Like, just because I like rap and you don't doesn't mean rap isn't good and doesn't mean rock isn't good. Like, it's just our
different opinions.
Yeah, different opinions, and that's
okay
fun.
to be
Yeah,
opinionated, right?
literally. Yeah.
There you go. So I'm looking at y'all's website and I'm
Well,
like,
hold on, I had a question. So how did this all come to fruition? Because for us, just like it was my senior year when I thought of the idea, but we couldn't get it started until way later. But it wasn't until like his end of freshman year, sophomore year, where I pitched my idea. I was like, hey, let's do this. For y'all are two athletes playing college ball. Y'all hate cold plunge and never want to do it again. I don't know what y'all graduated with, but how did y'all even like, hey, let's start this, let's start this cold plunging company.
So my family is a family of self-employed people. There's more than one, like my parents are, but there's others out there. So it's always been something I've wanted to do. As far as what school taught us, to be honest, Texas State, fantastic school, not ragging on it at all. A lot of colleges are good, and you go and get a degree, and it's fantastic. It opens the doors. But I mean, if you're diligent enough, I mean, YouTube can teach you everything you learn. So I graduated with a bachelor's in business management and a bachelor's in finance. So I've spent 5 years in college, 3 at Texas State, got 2 degrees because COVID, extended it a year. I thought that was better than a master's route, but I mean, who knows? We'll see. But anyways, with the understanding of finance, it was really something that like, when we graduated, I moved down to San Antonio, and then I think you hit me up, was like, hey, like, I'm living in Austin. It's kind of like same old. Like, I'm down to switch up the scenery. I was like, yeah, cool, come down. So we started living together, and then, like, I'm pretty off the walls. Like, I just wanted to do something, and I was probably a little too young. Like, not too young, probably a little too naive on certain ideas. Like, like, clothing brands, like, Austin has a fantastic clothing brand. Like, Dreamer is amazing. But for every one that's like Dreamer, there's like 10,000 that aren't. And don't quote me on that, but like those numbers aren't real. But
No,
like,
but
you know
sure.
what I mean?
It's like that.
So it's like Austin had a vision, saw his vision, pursued his vision, like made it a reality. Where a lot of people are like, oh, like I'm just gonna invent clothes because I'm cool with graphic design and all that, but then they don't do the Instagram stuff, right? So having that background of like you need to do all this and seeing kind of like the people in my life who are self-employed and kind of the freedom it gives them, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I know I need to do this, and the sooner I start, the sooner I can get to that point of my life. So then as far as cold plunging came along, I thought of a couple of ideas, but they were, kind of like the red seed, blue seed thing we talked about earlier. Wasn't that great. And then we actually went to we're thinking about buying a cold plunge. And then we were like, it's got to be a better way.
Yeah, we
got
just
to be
wanted
a
one
better way.
ourselves.
Yeah, just to
I
have,
just want a cold plunge
for sure.
Yeah, so we were our own customers.
Yeah.
Initially.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, very similar for me, where it was, I got out of college, and I just kind of saw the path laid out before me, where I was like, I have a nice secure job right now. I work remote. It's very chill. I make the money that I want to make, but it's really not giving me the freedom that I want. You know what I mean? It's like where if you're not part of your own plan, you're part of somebody else's. That old saying, where if you're not building something for yourself, you're building somebody else's dream. So we'd always been bouncing ideas off each other of businesses that we wanted to start, and really just with the idea of freedom in mind, right? And just doing something. And if you can tie your time and your financial freedom to something that you actually enjoy and love, that's the ultimate goal.
It's not a job at that point.
Exactly, man. So it was just jump in and just find a way to make it work. And really we had no idea what the fuck we were doing in the beginning.
You never do.
Yeah. And we still don't, right? To this day, it's we're stumbling forward. It's as long as you're moving the ball down the field on a daily basis, you're winning.
As long as you're learning. There's always something to learn.
And it's funny you bring up it's not a job if you enjoy it. Some of my good friends actually, they're like, dude, you don't have a weekend off, because they'll hit me up, hey, let's go grab a drink.
It's different.
And I'm like,
shooting on a Friday.
I'm like, I can't, tomorrow night is a perfect example. One of my friends, has this big old thing planned, and there's gonna be 20, 30 people, and he wants me to come out, and I'm like, bro, I gotta wake up at 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning to drive to Austin, to be there by 7, to be set up by 8, to do an event from 8 to 12. And then it's like, and then I'm coming home, and then it's like, well, Sunday night I can't do anything because, I mean, I can. I'm going to eat a nice dinner, steak dinner probably, and I'm going to have a good night's sleep. But then it's like Monday, you know, back to the grind, right? The grind never stops, and it's really, this is a mindset that I've recently started talking about and thinking about, and I think Noah knows it. But it's like, if you're one of those guys who, like, you wake up Monday and you're like, okay, beginning of the week, and then you get to Tuesday and you're like, one day closer, and then you get to Wednesday, you're like halfway there.
Living
then,
for the weekend,
like,
bro.
you're just waiting for the weekend. It's like, bro, you're just gonna be, you know, in that
Yeah.
constant loop the rest of your life. Whereas, like, our weekends, yeah, we're busy, but it's something we enjoy doing. Like, and even the days that I don't have stuff for having a cold one, like, I'm doing other stuff with my job too that pays the bills. So it's like it doesn't matter what it is. And I was blessed to come out of college and get a career that like I find actually pretty fulfilling, but it's like not self-employed. You know, that's the biggest thing. The freedom isn't there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
that's the big thing.
and so, like, even the weekends, it's like we look forward to the weekends because it's like when we get to do what we want to do, which is so much different of a mindset of looking forward to the weekend because it's like, oh, I can lay on the couch for 12 hours or I can go drink with the buddies. It's like, no, I actually, it's funny. I actually find myself at like networking things and doing things like on the weekdays now because I'm like, nope, my weekends are, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it Saturday night.
We did that whole thing, and I don't want to feel like we're preaching down at people
Yeah.
and saying like, you know, this is what we do. We grind 24/7.
Yeah.
But truly, it's like gotten to the point where we were doing that. Like when I first moved to San Antonio, we were doing the same thing. We're like, yeah, I want to start a business, but it was more like a passive idea.
Yeah.
And we're still going out on the weekends.
Not
just
intentional.
Just
Yeah.
bullshitting, you know, just hanging out on the weekends, and then getting to the point where now my weekends where it's like a lot of people look at it like, dude, it seems like your weekends are super. You never have any time to do anything. You're always traveling back and forth. And I'm like, those are the days that like give me the energy to go for the rest of the week. Like I come back from the weekend, I come back from events like more energized and more excited than I was before them. And so like that's what we look for. We look forward to the weekend, but for like a different reason, right? Where it's like you have a passion or something that's actually fulfilling you and like giving you energy as opposed to just like slowly building up to the weekend, draining all my energy, and then just trying to reset on Monday.
Yeah.
Especially when you're drained on Monday, you know, 2-day bender or whatever the case may be, you know, especially when Sunday football comes back up, you know who I'm talking about.
Football,
And, you know,
football season, man.
We've been there.
you know, you wake up Monday and you're like, oh, like I wish this was Sunday. And it's like, why, man?
Yeah.
Like, hey, Monday's a great day too.
What I've come to learn though is like you need those people. Like you need the people who go on benders. You need the people who like entrepreneurs are dumb. You need the people who are like, oh, I kind of want to start a business. Like you, and then you need the people like us, or else the world just isn't.
Can't be
You can't. You
it's not
without having them, you can't have us.
Let's just,
Without having us, you can't have them.
I mean,
That's how it is.
you know, not to steal this from someone who said this, but like you still need the janitors. You still need those people.
You need those people.
And not talking down on them at all. That's a very, very humbling job, and it's very hard. You know, very, very hard. And respect to those people who do those things because without them, society wouldn't function.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like
Exactly.
people who build the roads, society wouldn't function without
Exactly.
you. So like not taking appreciation away from them.
Yeah.
Just something that's like, that's not my interest.
Yeah.
And I hope that the people who are doing it, I hope it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't want my road to
True. I mean, for example, like my mom was a second grade teacher for 30 years, right? So I come from just like a middle class family where my dad worked for the state, my mom was a teacher for 30 years, and they loved it. You know what I mean? They make it work, they have that stability, it's what they want to do. And so whenever I talk about my passions and what I'm doing, they're like, I don't understand it at all. I
Yeah.
don't understand what you're trying to do, but I support it. So I'm very thankful to have.
Yeah.
you know,
No,
parents
that's
that get it and
huge.
are
Yeah.
okay with it instead of telling me, hey, you have a secure job. Like, why are you trying to risk your entire life for this? Right?
Yeah.
It's like it's a different kind of mindset where it's some people need that. Like you're saying, we need both types.
Yeah.
I think it's also an easy thing to consider like a step up from where you came from. So, I mean, for example, my dad's from Wyoming. So like just a job opportunity outside of that state was a step up.
Yeah.
So he became an engineer in Texas.
Yeah.
Right. And then like that just led down the road of doing everything else. He
Yeah.
started running his own firm, you know,
Yeah.
blah, blah, the rest is history.
Uh-huh.
But it's just one of those things where, you know, it's like, am I doing better than the people who brought me here? And not in like a narcissistic or like pessimistic way at
Yeah.
all. But just so that you can leave something better for the people you bring into this world, right? And that's like a big thing too, is like, you should only compare yourself to who you were yesterday, but you know, like it's definitely not a bad thing to definitely have high standards so that you can say like, okay, I want my life to be this way. Like I want, like my kids aren't going to pay for college.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to happen. They're not going to have college debt. They won't.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that. And like, I just, because I'm going to like, I believe that. And so I will find a way to make that happen because like I have some college debt.
Yeah.
And
If
I
college
don't
even
do it.
exists at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
For real.
If
What
YouTube
did,
doesn't take
what
it
did you
over.
graduate with?
I got my undergrad in business management and I got my master's in business administration.
So, I guess for both of y'all, one, how much of what y'all learned in school taught y'all business that y'all doing now? And then for you, how much more did your parents teach you for them being self-employed versus school to help your business now?
Yeah, so I can start. So school's great. I've always found it pretty easy. Not to shame anybody who finds it super hard. I definitely had hard classes and challenging classes. Accounting, not my forte. Not my forte.
Yeah,
I
for
don't understand it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I have a CPA.
Yeah.
Like straight up, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I learned that, and I pay. I literally spend money so I don't have to do it. But as far as like life lessons goes, I mean, man, there's nothing that can prepare you to see like your parents go through stressful times. Even though if you don't necessarily understand how bad they are.
No, for real, though.
And I was pretty
Yeah.
sheltered from that. My parents did a very fantastic job of keeping like stressful times from me and my brother and I. But definitely, had those moments where like I've called my dad and been like, dude, I don't know, like I don't know what to do. What do we do? Someone just offered us this. This is what's going on. And he's like, well, I mean, like, there's multiple ways to think about it. And he comes from an unbiased spot because he obviously wants to succeed, but he doesn't have the risk. He doesn't have the pressure. He's been there, done that. He's happy. He's old. Yeah, he probably wouldn't like me saying that, but he's old, man. He's traveling now, so he's like, I can definitely help out and give my opinion, and stuff. So as far as like the self-employed stuff goes, definitely my parents have taught me more lessons and probably how to handle situations, especially when it's like they're out of your control, right? Like in 2008, that was out of people's control, like the housing crisis. It's like some people are just like, well, I just bought a house that I thought I could modestly afford, and now I can't because the banks messed everything up. But school's definitely good for a variety of different career paths, and it definitely plays a role. And I'd recommend everyone find a professor that you like, talk to them, kind of start there with building a network because they'll be a resource for you outside of school too. I talked to 2 or 3 of my professors. One's actually an accounting professor. I struggled in his class, but he saw me work hard. Yeah. And so that was one of the things where, like I'll still call him and just talk to him about things. We get coffee every now and then, New Braunfels, and he's a great dude, really great dude. But it's like build those relationships because they know a lot, and they've probably built a business, done stuff like that too. Because they just teach because they love it. Yeah, like that's what they desire to do. It's just like knows mom. Yeah. Well, you can't be a tenured college professor if you're not loving it, right? But yeah, so college is definitely good. Definitely teaches like foundational skills, such as like you got an 8 a.m. class, wake up, go.
Time management.
Exactly,
huge.
right? And workload.
Yeah, learn how to balance stuff.
Definitely workload. Like if you got a big test, guilty as charged, but don't stay up all night the night before. Like space it out over 3 or 4 days at least. Like why looking back, why would I put that stress on myself? I thought I was young and could handle it.
Not for real.
I handled it all right.
That's the test.
But exactly, you remember it just for the next 3 hours while you take it, and then you forget all of it. But as far as like entrepreneurial skills, not much. I got the gift of gab, so I can just talk to anybody. That's kind of something I've developed through life, which is why I talk a lot. So, but
For me, I would say that school just kind of teaches you the language, right? Like in business school, at least that's the only perspective I can really speak from. Just gets you familiar, obviously, like your P&L and just like basic things that you need to understand, just having that foundation. But like Cade's saying, it really just teaches you like how to commit to something, right? Like I feel like a lot of employers, like when they see somebody who has a degree, they're like, okay, this person can't commit to something for 4 years. That doesn't have an immediate gratification to it. So just teach you, like you're saying, the time management skills, and especially like student athletes. It was like we had to just completely put a lot of our social life on hold.
Yeah.
Just because it's like you have other it makes you prioritize things, right? And so it's like, yeah, you got class at 8 a.m., you got practice afterwards, you got weights afterwards, and you got study hall and all the different shit.
I love talking about that. People are like, "Oh, it must have been so great." I'm like,
Man,
yeah,
what?
10% of the time, it was amazing.
The game. That's about it.
The other 90% of the time, like that's what you don't see.
Yeah.
Like when you're driving by and those guys are out there and you know they're practicing. It's like, oh, wish I could be out there. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not doubting you that you do, but it's like that every day, day in, day out,
Whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and then you don't see the times where it's drizzling at 5 a.m. and it's 45 degrees outside and we're out there having to run because we lost 2 out of 3 games on a series and it's a Tuesday morning, right? Like you don't see that because you're asleep in bed in an air-conditioned house, like in a heated house, right? Like that's the stuff where it's like that's the 90% of it. And then the 10%, like beating UT at UT, that's awesome. Now it sucks we lost them at home, but whatever. Like, you know, that's the 10% of like, that's worth it, right? You know, that makes it worth it.
And having those mental battles too, like, you know, when you're in a position battle, like in college, like for me, like in fall camp, bringing in JUCO guys, got to battle them out.
Yeah.
It's just like every day you're like having to wake up with getting your stuff done, and you're like, this person's trying to take my job, they're trying to eat from me. So like all that stuff like does play a factor in life, because once you get in the entrepreneur world, it's a lot of like doggy world. Like there's a lot of people that like will backstab you, like will do things to kind of elevate their business and whatnot. So like school aside, like even just sports is just I feel like it's such a foundational piece, especially in life in general, but like also the entrepreneur route.
Just real quick, just a quick little story. The biggest thing the biggest lesson I've ever learned. So I went to junior college my sophomore year, left UTSA. I had surgery August of going into junior college. So I was legitimately out. I couldn't throw or hit a baseball until November of the fall. So we had like 2 inner squads left and all this stuff. And this other kid had right field like locked down. It was 100% locked down. I didn't start the first 2 or 3 series in junior college. Well, and then I ended up starting like, I don't know. I was like, I think I was like 4th or 5th in like most games played in at Midland or whatever the case may be. I don't know, no records or anything. But like it just, when I did have the opportunity, I got back. They gave me a shot, you know, and then it was like, okay, like he didn't blow his shot. Like, okay, now he's a starter, but let's take him out halfway through the game. Okay, now he's doing well all the time, you know, now, and then eventually it became where like I was the right fielder. Like it wasn't the guy who started the year and great dude. Actually love him still, talk to him, but yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, there's definitely not adversaries, but it's definitely
adversity.
Adversity when it comes to couldn't think of that one. You know, when it comes to that kind of stuff. So
cool.
How much has baseball helped you? I guess sports in general, because you even compete still today with jiu-jitsu. So how much has sports helped you, like, in your business world?
I mean, it just teaches you exactly what Cam was saying earlier, where it's like competitiveness is a good thing, right? And I think that's why so many employers, like I talked to my current boss about it now, he's like, yeah, that's why we're interested in you in the first place. He's like, as soon as I heard you were a baseball player, I was like, yeah, sign on. Just because you understand like what it takes to win, you understand what it takes to work, and like Cade was saying earlier, you know, the fun part is 10% of it, and that's the same thing for business. It's probably the same thing for most of life, right? And most people aren't used to that. They're like, why can't it just be fun all the time? I'm like, because then that's not life. You're not building towards anything. You're just getting instant gratification.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of learning how to build towards something that you have like an ultimate goal. You work in a team, right? You have like your brothers there with you that are all have the same goal, all have the same mindset around each other, and you call each other on your bullshit, right? I mean, that's like the biggest thing too, is you can't be jaded when someone says, hey, you got to pick it up, you're not doing your job, right? And some people that haven't had that sports background, they hear that and they just shut down. You know, they shell and they're like, they're being mean to me. You know, they're telling me I'm not good enough. And it's like, well, are you good enough? Like, can you actually look in the mirror and say that you're doing enough and that you're actually like prepared for what you're trying to do?
The biggest thing too with sports is respect. Like there's certain people, you know, we've all probably played with people that we don't like, but dude, at 5 a.m. they're out there running the same sprints you are, and no matter what you don't like about their opinions or anything like that, it's like, man, I respect you because you've been through the same trenches that I went through, and I would want someone to respect me for that. So that's something too.
And that's why I think business owners too, you see the same thing, like with what y'all are doing. Like I have so much more respect for y'all, just because I understand what y'all are going through. I understand that y'all are having those late nights where you're like, man, should we really be doing this? Should I just all the time?
Yeah.
Right? Like all the time, you're like, man, what the fuck are we trying to do this
Yeah.
for? Like it's so difficult. There's so many podcasts. There's so many cold plunge companies. There's so many people that can be doing it. That are already doing it better than I am. Like why is it even worth taking?
Playing
a
catch
shot?
up.
Always, right? You're like, I should have started 10 years ago. And it's like the best time you can be in is right now. Like there's no better time.
Another big thing that I guess with playing sports too is you're coachable.
100%.
You're coachable.
Yeah, you take other people's advice and implement it, right? Because like there's no listening to advice is useless unless you actually like do something with it.
You gotta apply it.
Like even if somebody like calls you bad, it's like it's not gonna hurt my
It's
feelings.
like, well,
'cause
maybe I am.
what coach told me was way worse than you calling me bad.
5 a.m. weights, I'm gonna show up at 4:30.
Exactly.
Dude, time management for sure.
So what got cold plunging big? Because it's we had Matt Choi on. I don't know if I heard it from Matt Choi or from somebody else, but it was big in like New York and that area. But it really is.
New York, California.
It really came from like Russia, right? Because that's what they like do.
Yeah.
Not came from Russia, but like it's a big thing for them.
Cold water was
It's like
Yeah.
You
it's
also
like
have people like Joe
Scandinavian
Rogan,
countries,
too.
I would probably say
Yeah.
is where
Yeah.
it came from. What really probably blew it up in the United States is like just first of all Huberman. Definitely, he has a big reach.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like having a podcast. Like, you can get a big reach and like
And then sell something.
people listen.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I'm listening to a podcast driving up here because it's like I ain't trying to find new music. I ain't got time to find new music. I can find a new podcast though. Oh, that guy looks interesting. I'll listen to it. Whether it's interesting or not, 20 minutes in, that's a decision I have to make. But yeah, it started with Wim Hof basically. And then the popularity grew when people were like, oh, wow, there's actually science-based changes that happen in
And
your
I think that's
body.
what a lot of people look for. And that's what I looked for in the beginning, right? Because a lot of it was just kind of this kind of woo-woo, like, oh, you're doing something difficult. Yeah, I get it. But, like, if you're not an athlete, why the hell would I subject myself to that? Like, I get the inflammation. Everybody understands, like, a base information about, like, the inflammation. Okay, yeah, ice makes, your muscles feel better afterwards. But I think once there was so much research, like, around Huberman and obviously being put on Joe Rogan podcast, anything that goes on there blows up. And so, like, just seeing more common people doing it and seeing the benefits and that it doesn't have to be this huge, like, crazy practice of doing it for 30 minutes every day or whatever. It's like for us, we preach 3 minutes a day, right? It's just consistency, just like working out, just like running, whatever you want to do. It's just how can you find a way to make it consistent in your schedule? So I think that a big part of it was the research that came out. A lot of it, we credit a lot of it to Huberman just because he has such a great way of conveying that information in a way that's digestible for people.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you hear and you're like, wait, so what does that mean? It's like
he's super smart. And just like Joe Rogan, he'll have on like, for perfect example, Huberman, who's a neurobiologist or something like that from Stanford. And he's just like, he makes it to where it's like the normal person, like the average Division I athlete. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand it now, right? So that's a big thing too. This may be a good segue back. But,
Yeah.
We not partnered with, but we did cold plunges for one of the XFL teams in the championship. They ended up winning.
I saw that.
They ended up winning. Not gonna say.
take a little credit.
No, not saying they won because of us, but they won. So
Like the other team didn't cold plunge.
Yeah, the other team didn't cold plunge. But anyways, no, we were on like day 575 hard, and they were like, "Hey, do you all have any connections here in San Antonio to go celebrate?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." Like one of my friends owns a bar, so I was like, "Yeah, I do. Let me see what he can do." So he got me in touch. He was like, playing telephone with a bunch of people, and eventually we found them a little club they could go to and celebrate, and that's part of the 10%, right? You don't see the other 90% of them grinding in the XFL, but out, and so we went and spent some quality time with some of the top tier athletes.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to just say fuck it. Like that's like one of those.
I mean, and it was one of those decisions. It was a business decision.
Yeah.
Really, like it was like, okay, we want to be seen associating with these people.
Yes.
These are the people of like caliber we want to be at. Like I don't care if you're in the XFL, the NFL, the AFL. What's the other? The American
it's
Football League.
USFL. the
USFL.
other
Like,
one.
bro, like those people are still pretty top tier. It's like Major League Soccer here in America is not like European soccer, but at the end of the day, every single person on every single MLS team would absolutely runs circles around me with a soccer ball.
There's
Like,
levels with everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like you see that with from high school to college sports. It's like everybody was the dude.
Yeah.
From college to professional sports, it's like even a bigger jump. Right?
jump,
And they were the dude in their state, or they were the dude in their country, and now they're here. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's got to be respect.
I've
for all
just learned that pros are pros for a reason. They're meant to be pros. Whatever they're pro in, they're meant to be pros.
Yeah.
I think everybody should be pro in something, dude. Like whatever you're doing, like you should take a professional attitude for it.
Pro life.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, pro life. Yeah, dude.
No, but for real,
like, have that discipline where it's like I don't have a practice schedule where a coach is telling me I got to be somewhere at 6 a.m. But it's like if you can have the discipline to tell yourself, hey, I have to accomplish these goals today. Like these are the things I'm going to take care of.
People look at me like I'm insane. What time do you wake up? 5:45, 6. To do what? Go to the gym. Why do you do that? Want to. Like, it's one of those things, like, it perplexes me, but it perplexes them. So it's like one of those things like, why does it mean so much to you? It's like, I've always been in shape. I've always had, like, the day I don't have a six-pack, dude, it's probably the first day I'll cry. Like, in a long time. Honestly. That'd be sad for me.
Some people are just built different. Like, that's just what it comes down to, That's just how I look at it. Because I'm like, people are just like, oh, you do a lot. And I'm like,
what else would I be doing?
Just different.
That's what I think all the time too. Like when we're doing these events on the weekends, I'm like, people are like, well, don't you have time to do things you like? I'm like, first of all, I do like doing those events. I'm like, second of all, what else would I be doing, bro? Just hanging at the pool, going to the river, just drinking beer.
And like this is propelling you. So in the future, like you have that time. Like, oh, I can do whatever. You set yourself up. I think like a lot of people don't understand that. Like we're building to set ourselves up.
Catch me at the pool on a Tuesday, not on a Saturday.
Yeah,
but it's a daily battle for me to be like. To be okay with where I'm at right now, but it's like a dichotomy of understanding like, okay, I got to be okay with where I'm right now just so I can live and not stress myself out so much and just hate my life, right? But then also know like where I want to be, right? And so it's like that trying to understanding like where you're at right now, but it's also like where you're at's not okay right now. So it's like trying to battle yourself on a daily basis of being like, there's so many things I want to do and so many things I want to accomplish, but like you just kind of got to take a step back sometimes and just realize that where you're at right now is like perfectly okay.
Well, and that's where comparing yourself to yesterday, right? Don't compare yourself to someone else.
1% better.
There's 30-year-olds in the gym who lift more than me.
Dude,
that's fine.
One of the things I heard it on this podcast actually, just these entrepreneurs, and they had a great way of phrasing it where, because I'm always like, well, what did I accomplish today, bro? Like, I feel like I did, because some days you have huge leaps. Like, I'm sure y'all have some podcasts where you have a huge guest on and it just fires you up, right? And you're like, dude, this is dope. This is gonna get
for real though.
And then there's some days you're like, bro, what are we doing? Like, did we even really accomplish something today? But the way they put it is like, every day your only goal is to move the ball downfield. Like, however small that is, whether it's just 1 yard down the field or whether you throw a touchdown, whatever it is, like, just keep consistently doing the things on a daily basis that will propel you where you want to go. Like, for us, it's just making a video every day, right? It's making content.
Yeah, y'all are really good at that.
It's responding to DMs. It's responding to the emails, right? Just doing like the little basic things that are boring, right? They're not fun to do all the time. I don't enjoy
monotonous
editing
task.
the video. Yeah, dude, exactly, bro. But it's like things that you have to do. And so that's like where sports in school like really kind of help build that background for sure.
Yeah, especially sports. Especially pitching. Hey, go throw a flat ground for the 5th day in a row. You're like, why?
Yeah.
But then you get out on the mound and you're like, oh, okay, I'm glad I threw 70 sliders this week because I'm about to rip 30 of them.
We're on y'all's website right now. How do y'all go about I guess pricing everything out?
So as far as a price point goes, really our pricing is just something that we have to feel like personally, like we're not taking advantage of people. But at the end of the day, obviously there are back-end costs. There are costs that we cover for people that they may not necessarily know are part of the business, right? Like, I mean, like we have we have this accountant, for example. She has a job.
Yeah.
She has to get paid.
Lawyers.
There's things like that. Oh, lawyers. Dude, don't even get me started with lawyers.
Website people. Everything.
The material too, like
all that product.
Oh,
yeah, really. It's there's so many things, and he's better with the numbers than I am. He's more just like financially oriented. I'm more just like trying to be like, okay, let's just push this out. Like, I think this is a good number. I think this makes sense. And he's like, well, does it actually make sense? Like, if we sold at that price, like, I'm a big people pleaser a lot of the time, which I have to deal with, and get to the point where it's like you have to be able to tell people no, and you have to know what your value is. In order to, because like you were saying earlier, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't think you're the dude, you don't think you have the best podcast, the best product out there, nobody else will. right? And so it's really like just establishing yourself as that brand.
So there's a couple cold plunge brands that we were telling you about. Like obviously Having a Cold One at the Collective, they have like the Plunge brand. It's like a that shit looks like super heavy. Like just
it's
like
probably like the Mona Lisa of cold plunges,
Yeah.
like as in like the original.
Okay.
Right, like
The OG. They were on Shark Tank.
Yeah, they were the ones on Shark Tank
Yeah.
in 2018, 2019, something like
That's
that.
why they have the name Plunge.
Yeah,
For sure. They were one of the first
they
ones.
copyrighted that immediately.
And then there's this other brand in Austin called Sub-Zero. They follow the podcast too.
Yeah.
I guess some of theirs has like heating too. Does y'all's have heating as well? Okay,
Yeah.
So we're one of the few brands where, I mean, there's some out there, but for like our price point, it comes standard for it to heat. Plunge has one that heats, but it's like an extra. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the prices.
It's
Theirs
like
is-
it changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Basically, where the one thing that separates our pricing from a lot of others isn't like necessarily at this moment. Our pricing doesn't like pay for our time, right? Whereas Plunge is like $7,000-8,000, and it's like, okay, well, they're getting compensated for their time. They have probably salaried employees and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
it's like
it's like we're 25 and got time, and we don't necessarily need to be compensated. That's why we also love the events on the weekends, right? Like, what goes back to the question: what else would we be doing?
And something interesting that we had to do recently, it was kind of hard for me to come to grips with, was to start charging for our time, like with these events. A lot of the times we're just doing it out of our own pocket, right? And so like, people are saying, hey, you can come out here and you're getting free exposure. I'm like, okay, but that exposure costs me
at some point
travel, and it costs me, we're buying ice, it costs us our time, like opportunity costs, what we could be doing for other revenue generating activities. And so, fortunately we're at the point now where we have so many people reaching out to us for events that we can charge. But it got to the point where we were almost like, to an extent, resenting the events, because like, shit, man, we're gonna have to go out there and stand out there for 4 hours. And I was like, it shouldn't be like that, right? Like, you should want to charge for your time, and people should want to pay you for your time, because we're paying other people for their time. And so it's like being comfortable with that and knowing like what your value truly is.
Yeah, and that's like a weird space too, because I talked to y'all off the phone or on the phone about like us getting a studio at some point and like providing services for people, but it's like, all right, what's a fair price point? Like, we want to provide this service, but at the same time, it's like you got to value yourself. You don't want to be like, oh, I don't want to be trying to break this person's pocket, because you just know how it is. But at the same time, like, you have to be valuable, and you have to, at the end of the day, you have to make a living too.
Because they feel your value. If
exactly.
you're undervaluing yourself, they're going to treat you like that, right? I mean, like, if you treat yourself as you're a premium, people feel that, and people feel invested in that. And obviously, like, a big thing with cold plunging too is like the benefit of it is the convenience, right? I mean, like, we've gone through all the pain points that all of our customers feel, where it's like you're buying ice every day, you're sanitizing your water, you're draining your tub, you're refilling it, you're bringing it wherever you go. You have a Rubbermaid trash can or whatever your horse trough is, and it's a pain in the ass, right? And so like a lot of what it comes down to is the convenience of it, and just how effective it can actually be in your life if you make it something that's convenient for you.
Yeah, do y'all know the people over at Pouch 6 or no?
At what?
Pouch 6, have you heard of them? Pouch 6 Studio? It's just another. It's like
literally right by Native Hospitals on the east side too.
They're the same way. I mean, he's confident in the way he talks, and that's how he sells his business, and they make great money doing it because the people believe in him.
And you find your people, right? I mean, like, you find who's just looking for like a quick buck, or who's just looking for a quick, easy way out. You know what I mean? Where it's like, that's just not for me. I can't tell you how many people come up to us and be like, how much is your product? I'm like, it's like 48.
Oh, I mean,
what?
You can sniff them out early.
They're like, I could just buy a Rubbermaid tub and fill it out. Like, yeah, you can.
You have the little
can do
tank
that.
and all
Yeah.
that.
I'm
Well,
like, look, you can do
we've
that.
also had people who like, they want to put together an event, and they're like, well, who should the other vendors be? And it's like, it's your event. like we're a vendor. Why are we, why are we a part of the
Taking
whole selecting
ownership.
vendors? Yeah, like, it's your event. And like, not saying we're like, I mean, we can find other vendors. I mean, especially now, we are in connection with so many other like local businesses and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like like, you're paying us for this is your event. Like, you need to make it how you want to do it, and then gather feedback from that. Because like, if we run the event for you, and then say one day we can't, we're busy, now you got to do all that. It's going to be like basically starting from the first time, right? Like, if y'all just bought all the equipment and had someone else do the podcast, and then that person,
Owns you.
leaves, right? You're like, oh, well, now we got to do them. Like, oh, that's weird. Like, now I don't, but maybe you're 100 episodes in, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, now you're doing, on the 101st episode, it's really y'all's first episode. So it's one of those kind of things. So if you're an event planner, be an event planner.
So shock therapy. Like I'm big on like sauna if you have the access, because that's another thing. Like having the access to sauna and a cold plunge at the same time is like pretty unrealistic for most people.
Yeah.
So have you guys been able to do like shock therapy like that, like sauna for 20, 25 minutes, cold plunge for 5, get back in, then cold plunge for like 2, and like the benefits of that? I want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't have a sauna. At
Speak
our
on Colorado a little bit.
Oh yeah. So we don't have a sauna at our own place. I love sauna. I go to the sauna like almost every day. I actually have a membership at a gym that has a sauna.
Yeah.
So I love doing that. You know, obviously there's huge benefits for like the heat shock proteins, cold shock proteins, where it's basically you're pushing your body to the point where it thinks it's gonna die, and so it's pushing these amazing hormones and all these things that are basically healing your body and flushing out all the bad things.
Yeah.
Because it's preparing you for like, okay, if we're gonna be in here for the next hour or 2, I don't know how long I'm gonna be in here, and so it's like preparing you for that. So we're actually partnered with Dr. Susanna Soberg, who has a Soberg principle. She got mentioned on Huberman, the Joe Rogan podcast,
Super fire.
where she did. Her whole principle is like 11 minutes a week, basically, and that's kind of where we base a lot of our science behind. Where it's the benefits of going from hot to cold, and there's just these, you know, your human growth hormone goes through the roof, your testosterone goes through the roof, your dopamine is raised by 250%, which is the same levels as cocaine, except it lasts for like 4 to 6 hours afterwards. And we're actually exploring adding saunas as well, like to our product offering, because it ties perfectly in.
Yeah.
And honestly, just selfishly, I want a sauna.
Yeah.
Right? Like I just want to have my own sauna.
Yeah.
Just so I can hop out, do it before bed, whatever I want to do. But yeah, I've done cold, like the heat, cold back and forth like once, and it was like euphoric. But like he was saying, we were in Colorado. We brought the tub out there. His family has a place out in Colorado that we'll bring the tubs out to, and just bring some friends out there. And we just let the tub sit overnight, so it was like frozen. You know, there's like this much ice on it, and there's a jacuzzi like right next to it. So we would just crank that thing up as hot as we could, and we would just go back and forth.
That's fire.
Yeah.
So it's
Feels
like
good.
euphoric, dude.
It's so nice.
You're just giddy. You
Yeah.
get out of the cold
Get that
plunge,
shock.
and you get in there, and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it feels illegal.
Was that first viral video?
Huh?
The one with the
Oh yeah.
So dude, there was one morning where I don't know what weather system blew through, but there was probably 6 inches of ice in our tub, and like we took like a little compilation of, you know, like breaking the ice and then
Getting in.
and then one of our friends, like, they built a ski, like a ramp behind us. He did like what he tried to do a backflip on
He
the snowboard.
behind it, did like a back.
Did like
So
a
it was like a
backflip
bunch going on.
behind
And we're like, what the hell?
So, but I mean, you know, that goes to social media talk though. Is like you gotta capture attention and keep it. You know, captions, make it easy, make it accessible, make it interesting.
The biggest thing for us too is collaboration, right? Like
Yeah.
we're trying to build a community, and so like the best way for us to do that, like we're mainly on social media, and so we do a ton of collaborative content where it's just, you know, we'll have people at the events who say, hey, are you comfortable with me filming you for our Instagram video? Afterwards, hey, would you be okay if we tag you, you know, in this video? We can do collaborative content. So that's been like one of the biggest ways that we've grown, and one of the biggest ways that we've got just kind of that community response, and like Cade's saying, trying to just ingrain ourselves in the community.
That's cool too. Because I mean, like you guys mentioned with the sauna, like I literally got on Plunge's website. I didn't even know they were making a sauna.
Yeah,
And then
it's new.
then not having a cold one. That's y'all obviously. Hot box sauna.
Yeah.
They have
Dope,
like
dude.
that. Like it's in Austin too. Like that's what I was gonna ask if y'all like thought about doing stuff
So-
with him or anything like
So
that.
I've never met him. I don't know if Noah has, but from Matt Worthington.
Yeah.
Right. But shout out Matt Worthington. Shout out Riser.
Yeah,
Like
shout out
they're
the
like,
boys.
that guy is the ultimate plug for relationships
dead
and
ass.
connections.
And
It's
you want
like,
to talk about just willing to give, like that.
Yeah.
Will give you the shirt off his back.
No,
Yeah,
for real.
that's-
So
Somebody's had
good.
him on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
yeah. No, he's a good dude, and he has a lot of insights to share. And he's got his own little thing. You know,
Yeah,
he's,
he does it.
They're killing
you
it.
want
He's
to talk about
killing it.
working hard?
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude
That's
busts his
another
ass.
guy,
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure.
But no, the guy from Hotbox, I think like former Navy SEAL, which is first of all just impressive right there. But no, apparently stand out, like amazing product. I've seen videos of it. I haven't been in one or anything, so I can't speak to the product at all. But definitely like respect him and have heard phenomenal things about the Hotbox sauna. So
And I mean, hot box and cold one just goes hand in hand. I mean, come on.
And they both look super like portable. Like
Yeah.
that's another thing that like stands out to me with y'all's, because like I was telling you about the Plunge one, it looks like it's just stationary. Like you would
sure.
it'd do the most to move it.
It's a permanent fixture, for
Yeah,
sure.
y'all you can like dump it, take it with you, put it in the back of the truck, like drive on a road trip, hook it up, fill it with water. Then this like sauna is very portable. Like you like sit down in it. It's not like a
not like a
traditional
huge barrel.
big ass one with the rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, it just amazes me like how popular it's become over here because the only reason, like I said, I didn't really know of cold plunging, and well, I knew about it before. I just didn't know it was called that, but I didn't know about it really till last year since he started doing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, going back to MMA and UFC, the only reason I like knew that was a thing is because
They were doing
they like Khabib, like all of them in Russia, Khabib, Islam, like that's what they do. But
Yeah.
they've been doing it their whole life, and like that's
Yeah.
like a big thing in their culture over there in Russia, Uzbekistan, I mean, all over there.
Well, those guys are built different.
They're for sure built different.
Let's just make that known.
Yeah, they're
Those
for
guys
sure.
are
I mean,
built
that's probably
different.
why they just started it because they're just built different and then just became popular.
100%. And there's this great documentary called Choke. It's on what's his name, Ixon Gracie, where he was one of the first people that was just sitting in rivers like in the winter, and he didn't really necessarily have the science behind it. He didn't know why he was doing it, but like the reason that he had done it, he was like, I know my opponents won't do this. You know, so it's just that mental edge, and that's really the biggest thing that I find from it is that mental resilience and just the boost of confidence that you get from doing something that you know is difficult, whether it's a workout, whether it's going to train, whether it's just doing administrative work that you don't want to do. How good do you feel afterwards, right? You close that laptop, you're like, all right, I just took care of the shit that I need to do, right? So it's just building like little wins into your day, right? Little wins that you can control.
How often do you recommend changing the water? Because I've been around places and they're like, oh, like that water is like one time I was at the gym and this guy was like, how often do y'all change the water? And she was like, oh, it's like I forgot what she said. I think she said it was like filtered or something like that. But I guess how often do y'all recommend changing the water?
I mean, okay, so it really depends on the situation of the people getting into it. If you're working out for an hour and then you're just jumping straight into it, I'd probably change that water pretty frequently. Like I know Matt changes his water pretty frequently, if not like after anytime he has a big session with people, like a big workout session, and he's at that garage gym. But like if you're showering, getting in it, the water lasts, it's like what, 8 to 12 weeks?
Yeah. And
There's
like
a filter and
for ours specifically, like there's a filter on the back just to filter out any debris, and then there's also an ozone sanitation system which cycles like every 1 to 3 minutes, so it cleans your water. So like for ours, we leave ours running like 24/7, and so probably every 6 to 8 weeks is what I'd say we change it out, and it's super. You just drain it, move the hose over it, fill it back up. Super simple. I mean, if I was a gym, I'd be changing it more regularly.
Definitely.
Just have a bunch of people getting in, right? If you're not like diligent about making them shower beforehand. Like when we do events, like obviously we just fill it up, change it out, clean the tub out afterwards. But if it's just you and you're the only one that's using it, if the water's moving, obviously it's going to keep it cleaner a whole lot longer. So yeah, it really just depends on the use of it. Like if it's filtering, if it's circulating every 6 weeks. I mean, if it's doing less than that, just fill it, every week or two.
Cool.
Yeah, and then at a place like a gym, you just hope people follow the rules.
Yeah, the rinse off before, especially like having like that sauna access. Like I see people all the time like sweat their ass off in the sauna, get straight in the cold plunge. I'm like, just rinse real quick, get in there. I don't know. Be courteous, but
For sure.
Yeah, now I was just curious because I'm not sure, so didn't know.
What do you use when you cold plunge?
What do you mean, like?
Like, do you have like a tub?
Oh yeah, so I use the plunge one.
Okay,
That's the one
got
at the
it.
collective.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Collective, right?
yeah.
So you're like, how often they change it?
Yeah. No, I make sure. I mean, you make sure.
You never know.
Yeah.
You just never
True
know.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, when water is that cold, it pretty much hinders
Yeah.
any bacterial growth, just because cold just does not allow things to grow. Like we said earlier, ours heats up as well, and so at one point we had both of them set up, and we learned very quickly that hot water gets dirtier faster than cold water does, because we were just hopping from
Yeah,
cold to hot
and
tub.
not dirtier, but it just promotes growth of things you don't. I mean, like there's a reason why they don't put petri dishes in a science lab in a freezer, right? The stuff
die.
wouldn't grow.
Yeah.
They put it in like a nice environment, probably like rainforesty environment.
How cold do you guys keep the water? Because at the collective, I think we have it at like 47. So where do y'all kind of put y'all's at, and what would y'all recommend? Like if someone bought it to put
So
theirs
we
at?
do like mid 40s.
Okay.
We started at like mid 50s, and really all you're looking for, and I'm biting this straight from Andrew Huberman, is you're looking for the stress response from your body where you get in and your brain immediately thinks, okay, I want to get out, but I'm safe to stay in here, right? So for some people, they jump in too cold too quick, and it just turns them off of it, right? So I would recommend people to start at a higher temperature, 60, 55 degrees. Leave your ego at the door before you get in, because you're gonna be like, oh no, interhumanists said I got to do 40 degrees. So I'm gonna do 40 degrees. Like Joe Rogan's in like 32 degrees.
Yeah.
He's like, if it's not frozen on the top,
He
it's
does
not
30.
Dude,
he's got
Yeah, that's crazy.
He does 33 degree and it's moving. So like that's something too is like the thermal barrier.
What?
Your body, if the water's not moving, your body will develop a thermal barrier, which basically like your skin heats up the water right around your skin.
It does, because that's why I try to like do that.
Yeah, and so like Joe Rogan's, like you can turn it up so high that it like legitimately looks like a river. And like,
it's like a world.
He's
and
intense.
he does it at 33 degrees and like in the morning, which is like the hardest time to do it because your body's cold from sleeping. But yeah, he's
intense.
But it wakes you up, though.
He's also built different though, right?
He is.
Like think about what he's
everybody,
accomplished.
right? I
So.
mean,
Yeah.
that's why I just try to find something that's comfortable for you, right? Whether that's 40 degrees, whether it's 60 degrees. Like we were talking about David Shipp earlier. He thinks that 40 degrees is way too hot. He's like, bro, I gotta do 30 degrees. Like I gotta do it as cold as I can possibly. Just because that's what he's looking for. You know, he's looking for that shock response. But I mean, for people, I would just recommend start at a temperature like 55, 60, work your way down just to something that's comfortable and manageable for you. Because eventually you'll get to the point where you get in 55 and you're like, I don't even feel it.
Yeah.
It's not even cold.
Yeah, start with Barton Springs.
Yeah.
No, honestly, that's a great,
For sure.
great option, and it's like free and accessible.
Free, dude.
Like,
Jump in that water. For
Yeah.
sure. Barton Springs is dope. Deep
Yeah.
Eddy.
yeah,
Yep. I got one more thing.
Go for it.
I don't know what. If you had
Yeah.
any more other questions.
I'll have to look, but go for it.
Just y'all's goals for this year. Just the last part of the year. What y'all got going on?
Keep growing, man. I mean, really stay the path. Like consistency is the biggest thing for us, and so I try not to get caught up in the day to day as far as like, oh, we only had this many followers a day, or we only got this many sales this month, whatever it is. It's just like staying the path, and really the ultimate goal is just to build a community that people want to be a part of. You know, I use Sphere a lot just as kind of an example of where we want to get to, because it's such a cool group of people that are all there for the same purpose. They all have the same goal, and it's like you're not preaching down to anybody. You're all equals there. And it's just making it accessible for people. So for me, it would just be keep growing the community, and just I just want to build something that people want to be a part of.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. You know, goals can take forms and, you know, it can have many different forms and shapes and sizes and all that. I think a good goal for, you know, let's say at the end of the year, looking back on it, would just be able to look back and be able to like tangibly, well, I guess you can't do this, but like, know that the knowledge we gained is going to benefit us in the future and build that community, right? So we can look back and say, okay, yeah, I remember in, you know, June of this year, or, you know, even something that would be funny, like look back, like we'll probably rewatch this and just be like, okay, yeah, maybe we should have phrased that a little different, right? That may be a little abrasive or something like that. So just looking back and really just like analyzing ourselves and just being like, okay, well, it was a year of winning, but not necessarily like financially or anything, just a year of like, we're better than we were last year, right? And the biggest goal, in my opinion, would be, you know, being a household name in Austin and much more places like that. And by household name, and just like, you don't have to own one, you don't have to do that, but just like, oh, did you see what those guys were
Recognizing
doing?
the brand.
Yeah, did you see what those guys were doing? Like, oh, that was cool, that was interesting. Like, yeah, I saw that they were, we're going to Houston in what, like 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're going to Colorado for something else, and you know, just things like that, where it's just like I don't know. I've had some people that I wouldn't necessarily think to know about this, but they call me and they're like, oh, how's that going? I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty sweet.
It's cool when people recognize your brand, and then your brand starts to hold weight. Like, for example, like we have people that hit us up now to get on the podcast. I remember back in the day, it was like struggling to get a guest.
Of course.
Now it's not that. So
100%.
same thing with y'all. Like, you're going to have people that's like, oh, I know that brand. Like, this is a cold plunge company, you know, and they associate it with you and health and wellness, and then whatever you guys get into. So especially with Austin, like,
For sure.
there's
It's
so
such a
many
cool group.
like health, like wellness, like Austin's like a health and wellness city, really. So super good that y'all are in like the right market, and like there's a ton of young, great entrepreneurs like Matt and us, y'all, like people that are really trying to like build that community and work together to help everyone. So
Just be synonymous with
Yeah.
cold plunge and having a good time, dude. That's really what we try to do. Like I know there's a lot of cold plunges out there, but I guarantee you we have more fun than anybody. In any event we go to, everybody's always saying, dude, we've had a ton of cold plunge vendors, but y'all are the most fun. Everybody is the most involved, and like that is what gives me energy and what gives me life, is just being recognized for like just the vibe that we bring.
We get lines of people, and sometimes they just like to chat. And I mean, I think that's like one of the biggest things too. Is like we're just like, if you want to come over and just talk to us about it, please.
I'm not gonna preach down to you to get your ass to the
Yeah. If you don't want to do it,
it's not for you.
Yeah.
You know, like I get it. Like
Yeah.
I don't like avocados. You know, but like he loves them. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. It's not for you. It's not for you. But what do you got going on? Oh, you see, you're fit. Like, maybe you can teach me something in the gym.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Right?
Yeah.
So
That's
it's always
fire.
something to learn.
Yeah.
Have y'all's goals changed, like year to year, or is the goal just
Year to
still
year,
stay the path?
yeah. Kind of year to year. One goal hasn't changed year to year, but different goals have changed year to year. Main goal that hasn't changed is getting monetized.
Yeah.
That's like our biggest goal that we're just
So
striving
Like
for.
a 1-3-5, like a plan. Like 1 year, want to be here. 3 years, want to be here.
Yeah, I would say now, since we like have been consistent the last 2 years, because like we've been doing it for 4.5, almost 5 years. First 2 and 3 just were like you guys were saying, not taking the business as seriously, not really having like a set plan. And then we had like some internal conflict with one of our other business partners, like just trying to figure out what everyone's roles are.
Yeah.
Now, and it sounds like y'all have like y'all's roles ironed out and straightened out. Like, you know what he's better at, you know what you're better at. And like we were kind of like trying to figure that out. Our goals really are essentially, like you said, getting monetized, like the main one. Especially it's so hard with content. Like unless you have like a viral video blow up, and then like what we were doing like I think we like kind of fucked ourselves because we were posting like all our stuff on like one platform. So we were posting like sports content and then like these random guests, entrepreneurs. So now like we completely broke our sports content into its own lane.
Yeah.
We're gonna build that up because people love sports. That's kind of easy to grow, but you want people to only, when they go there, they're only gonna get sports content.
And you
like
want
they know what
they know
getting.
they're going there for,
Exactly.
right? Not
Exactly.
just a bunch of random grab bag.
Exactly.
Of a bunch of different stuff.
And then with us, it's like more of the guests, more of the lifestyle, more of the vlog stuff, more of other like media, like high quality like ideas we want to do, and then getting the studio is like super huge because with CJ having his brand and stuff, like we do everything out of this like apartment. We've basically like done everything we can out of here, and we have so many ideas, but we just don't have the space and getting like the capital and all that stuff. So
for sure.
it's been a grind, and just trying to get like some real consistent like sponsors, like, and that's hard because you got to have the viewership, you got to have the numbers, and then
the metrics. What's
exactly,
your engagement, what's all your numbers.
Exactly.
That's when it gets not fun, right? It's like,
yeah. So hopefully, like to build up an audience that like the fans support anything we do, and they support our creative vision, and then like we just bring our fans will just ride with us, so we can just get whatever we need in the long term. But
I kind of see it as like seasons, right? Like, like we're in a season of learning right now, learning and growth, right? There's going to be seasons where it's like, hey, we have so many orders, we don't know what to do with them. Like that's a different kind of problem to have. You talked back earlier and like having different kind of problems, but it's like we're just in a season of learning and growing and just trying to absorb as much knowledge and game as we can.
Y'all done a lot in a year. Y'all just started a year, like y'all done a
November.
lot.
Yeah, I mean, but really, we started taking it seriously and going hard like January, February.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing. Like you can see like how much more, like how bigger it's gotten since it's been, you know, taken more serious. I mean, I tell them all the time, like we didn't lock in these last 2 years. Like who knows what we'd be doing right now? Like now it's a blessing, you know. So
they're like, why wasn't I doing this the whole time?
No, exactly. And then like you try not to be mad at yourself, but at the same time, it's like we just weren't ready.
Yeah,
you know, mentally, maturity wise, like wasn't the right time. So I'm trying to think. I had that one last question. Fuck. I hate that shit.
You just gotta interrupt and say it, dude.
Oh, got it. So one last thing for me. Obviously, you guys go to these events. You do like collaborative posts with people. What kind of are you trying to do strategic marketing? Obviously, you guys are doing the content, and content is super essential. But is there any like ideas or any other ways that you guys are going to try to get your product out there?
Yeah, we're working with like a number of different affiliates and ambassadors. Like we're involved with a number of different UFC athletes, a few NFL players, but what we found, and this is talking about that seasonal learning, is like we were talking about earlier, where it's like so many people watch UFC, but how many people are training UFC or training MMA that actually watch it, right? It's like a lot of just couch fans, or like football, right? It's like 99.99% of people who love football and watch football don't train, have never trained, never played football, right? So it's like finding that product market fit of where the people actually align with your message and understand the benefits outside of, because there's a ton of window lookers, obviously, right? That see it, and it's a big fad right now to talk about cold plunging and just be into it. And so for me, it's like just trying to find different ways to, like you're saying, to monetize it in a way, but just to align ourselves with like the correct kind of people that we want to be with.
Are you able to talk about the UFC?
Yeah.
Or
So We're partnered with like Jessie Jess, if you know who she is. Jens Pulver, who is a UFC Hall of Famer. Nate the Train Landwehr. I think that's all we got for UFC right now. No, Edson Barboza as well.
Edson Barboza.
That's dope. Isn't he fighting? He just fought, right? Or he's just fighting soon.
He's
Something.
fighting pretty soon.
Yeah, something like that.
He's going to get a dub for sure because of the cold one.
Yeah, probably.
Facts.
He's going to get it. But
We might have to get one of
no,
the train keeps continuing.
it's actually really cool. We have a video of it's pinned on our Instagram, but it's of Nate the Train literally coming to our house, cold plunging. And then the next day, we bought tickets to the UFC when it was in San Antonio. He was fighting. And we were like 7 rows up and, watching him, we were naked choke someone. It was so cool to watch. And we were just like so pumped. But UFC people they're awesome. And it's cool to see. This is the biggest thing. It's like, no matter how much you look up to someone or think what they do is like just non-human in like a way of like physical, like physical thing. It's like they're just people.
Yeah, rubbing shoulders.
Like they're just like we sat down with Jesse Dust and just had a coffee. It's like oh wow, okay, she is a human. So it's cool to see that, and it really puts everything into perspective. Like they're professionals at what they do for a reason, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that necessarily separates them besides like dedication, hard work, perseverance, right? I mean, you list the attributes, right? And it's seen across the board for all athletes.
And they're all a little bit crazy, right? It takes a little bit of crazy. Right?
More than a little bit of crazy.
All professionals, right?
All professionals, yeah. I'm going to say fighters are there.
UFC is definitely one thing, but I mean, like all professionals, like you hear stories of Tiger Woods, like, he's 12 years old, you grinding
like I said, they're pros for a reason, and they are a little bit crazy. They're just.
But I mean, why is that bad, right?
It's not bad.
Why is it a bad thing to be different than the norm? Like otherwise, you're just going to be like everybody else.
Yeah,
you said you need those people.
For sure. And it's fun. I mean, meeting people like y'all. Like I'm pretty sure y'all met amazing people. Like it's crazy to think when you're like in college or like when you're younger, you're just like, dang, like you just think you're gonna graduate school, get a regular 9-to-5 job, kind of just live your life, but then you like find these other passions and hobbies, and it just has you connect with so many amazing people. And just like having that network, like it'll pay dividends. I say it to him all the time, seeing people that we've had on the podcast win in life and whatever they're doing, like they go do something super cool. Like one of our friends, Peyton, like was on our podcast, blew up. Now he has like 200,000 on YouTube. Like to see something like that from a couple years ago, they weren't even in that same position, but they're just chasing their passion. It's just like, it's super cool and inspiring to see.
It only elevates you too.
Exactly.
And everybody around, like all ships rise with the tide, right? You know what I mean? And that's where it's that getting away from that scarcity mindset of that somebody else's success takes away from my success. Like, no, there's enough for everybody to go.
There's enough room for everybody to fit in.
Everybody. There's enough room for everybody.
That's what I tell people. People want to like start a podcast. I'm like, do it.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, do it.
Other people want to talk
that's
about
what like one of my friends' wives just asked me for how to go about starting one. I'm just like, and then I told him, I was like, I hope she does it. Like, there's room for everybody.
Yeah, and it just helps everyone. Like, the more normalized stuff gets, like you said, it's just like the more like people understand it, So
like, I mean, everything you do is a saturated market, but like at the end of the day, there's still enough room for everybody.
Yeah, unless you're inventing.
Yeah, and who's inventing nowadays?
What's it, the scrub daddy?
Yeah.
Unless you're inventing the scrub daddy, like there's basically everyone's done it.
Yeah.
So you gotta
invent anything.
And competition's good for everybody.
Yep.
Right?
It weeds people out, and it also like makes you do stuff that sharpens that knife.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about earlier, where it's just being a smaller company where it's just us two. Like I like that position because we're seen as kind of an underdog, right? It's like we have that kind of chip on our shoulder of understanding that we have to outmaneuver people in a more creative way. We have to be more willing to give. We have to be more willing to just put ourselves out there than other brands who may be a little bit scared, more scared to do something like that.
Well, before we hit this off, is there any shout out you want to give or anything for us?
Shout out Opinionated Media, first of all. Appreciate y'all having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. For real. I'd say our biggest shout out is probably Sphere Club. If you're in the Austin area, seriously, check them out. They're amazing. It's like $30 a month for a membership, and they're doing stuff every single day. It's crazy.
That's super cheap too.
I've got 2 or 3 buddies. I got 2 buddies. One baseball player with us at Tech State. The other was a football player at Tech State. They're both now part of it, and they like go out, and it's great. It's really cool because neither of them, well, Hayden or Gavin's from Austin, but like Isaiah's not from Austin, and like he's from Fort Worth, and so like living down here post college, everything like that. He's like
friends.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I like find it comforting to know like, oh yeah, I can go do this on a Thursday night, like, and like now this is running 3 miles, which crazy. But like he's not the faint of heart for like when he sets his mind to something, like he's gonna do it. And he's probably one of the hardest working people I know. But anyways, like it's just a great community. Everyone's welcome, you know. And definitely shout out them. Shout out Tanner. And
shout out Matt Worthington, dude.
Yeah, shout out
shout out Matt.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Biggest plug. I mean, this is what made this possible.
Yeah.
This connection. Like I said, he's just so willing to give value.
Yeah.
I just love that dude.
yeah, and if anyone has any questions for us, DM us on Instagram, email us. Our email's on our website. One of us is going to answer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We're gonna have all y'all's information down below in the description on the video, all that good stuff. Go give him a follow. If you have access to cold plunging, try it. I haven't tried it myself. I do have access to it because I can't go to the collective with him. But I just need to get back in the gym first of all.
We got you. We got you. We'll get you in a cold one here.
Yeah,
soon.
we might have to have one at
Sunday,
the studio.
bro.
Yeah.
Get one over there.
Yeah, and where that so for people who do want to try it in Austin, Texas, the last Sunday of every month, where?
Yeah, so it's at Native Hostel. I don't know if it's called that anymore.
Yeah, Native Hostel.
It's at Native Hostel, but the address is,
It's like East Street, whatever. But just look up
Yeah.
Spirit Club. Look up.
You can
Native
see like
Hostel.
Spirit Club like when
For
you
sure.
exit. It's like
They're all over.
right
Yeah,
next.
it's like
It's
right off
right
the
next to
highway.
Cesar Chavez,
Yeah.
right off of I-35
Yeah.
on the east side of I-35.
Yeah.
Every last Sunday of every month,
Yeah,
Last
free
Sunday
cold
of every month,
plunge.
for sure. Free cold plunge, free workouts, free a lot of stuff.
Free chiropractic, free cold plunges, free workouts, free yoga, free running if you're into that.
free
I
running.
think running.
Well, like with a group.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's some other vendors that come out.
Yeah.
There's great times.
Yeah.
Free juice, not juiced.
There's a bunch of them.
There's a drink.
Yeah.
They have a
company
soccer
that's out
field,
there.
right?
Yeah.
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 That's
It's a
fire.
mini.
So if you like soccer, bro, they play
Yeah,
soccer every night.
I need to do that.
Every night.
Cold
Yeah.
pitch.
Yeah.
Soccer pitch.
I love
Yeah,
it.
on the pitch.
Not a field.
Yeah.
Pitch.
But yeah, every Sunday. I mean, the last Sunday of every month.
Yeah.
If you want to try any of those out, go check them out. Like I said, we'll have all their stuff in the description down below. But that'll do it for your boys over here at Opinionated. We'll catch y'all guys next time. Peace.
Peace.